Phone Booth Productions.
Here's the thing.
Well, I get up around 7, get out of bed around 9. I don't worry about nothing, no, because worry's a waste of my time. Show usually starts around 7, we go on stage around 9. Get on the bus about 11, sipping a drink and feeling fine. Hello.
Welcome to another edition of Here's the Thing podcast with your boy Snoop Von Poop. Man, am I excited to talk to this guy today. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for probably 30 years now, since at least I was a teenager. I'm not sure how old he is, but I know
Go ahead.
I know I was a teenager. But I'm super excited to talk to him. You may know him from bands such as Earshot and Lynch Mob, but more importantly, he's got a podcast that he's the host of now called the Earmob Podcast, and you can find it all over the interwebs. It's on Rumble, it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter. I mean, it's everywhere. So welcome to the show, Chaz. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I've been slowly but surely checking your show out. I know you have a couple episodes rolling so far, and checking out your podcast you do with Ted and the boys, and that's pretty entertaining. You guys, I watched that, and it really makes me miss being in the last band I was in Vegas, because we all acted like that. It was just a bunch of complete fools doing what they love.
Was that the Sea Monkeys?
No. Well, that was kind of Sea Monkeys was great, but this was that last band I was in before COVID took it all away.
Oh, the Limited.
Well, the limit. All
Limit,
requests
the Limit.
live. Yeah.
And so now what you just did, like, I remember you guys had the show at Mandalay Bay, right?
Yeah, at Mandalay Bay, every Sunday and Monday night for 12 years.
And what? So like, people would come up and watch the show, and they could request songs, and you guys would just pretty much play any request, right?
Yeah, so how it worked is when we first started, obviously we take a few requests here and there, and then people started buying us beers and shots. So then it became a whole thing of, all right, well, if we can get drunk for free, especially at Mandalay Bay, because it's a resort and drinks are a little more pricey because it's on the strip. And
Sure.
so that's what it turned into. And we went from knowing like 40 or 50 songs we could pull off the top of our head to, by the end of it was like 400 or 500. I mean, it was literally somebody would request a song, and if we didn't know the song, but somebody in the band kind of knew it, because between the two guitar players, we could play almost anything, because one guy covered like the 70s and 80s and 90s and some 2000 stuff, and the other guy covered like the 60s and 70s. So we had like Jason Walker, who's very influenced by Jimmy Page, and then we had Mike Zuder, who's grew up with like Boston and Eddie Van Halen and stuff like that. So we had two completely different guitar players.
Yeah,
and we could, between those guys, we could play whatever the hell we wanted.
I was gonna say that's fucking incredible to know that many songs. That's funny because that's when I reconnected with you. Like
Right.
I had known you, back in the '90s when you were in the Sea Monkeys, and we used to hang out at the old school club Pinkies back in Las Vegas, and then we kind of lost contact for a few years, and then I remember I was hanging out with our friend Doc Ellis, Mike Ellis,
Right.
and we ended up going to see The Limit. And I remember reconnecting with you at that show. So it's funny how, time weaves people in and out of one another's lives,
Well, it's funny because when it comes to Ellis, I call him Ellis.
Yeah.
Everybody calls him Doc. I know him as Ellis, and it's always like whenever we need somebody for a gig, it wasn't let's call Doc, it was let's call Ellis, because we all knew each other before he took on the name Doc. So That, it's just Ellis to us. Like he doesn't know me as Chaz, he knows me as Stumbo.
Right,
And the singer John Lombardo is known as Lombardo.
dude. It
So
was
everybody and bass player, same with Jason. Everybody calls everybody by their last name, because that and Ellis is the reason that I got in that band. I just moved back from Oregon into town, and I get a call like 3 days after being back in town, and it's Mike Zuder saying, "Hey, I've got this gig. If you want to play it tonight, we need a sub." So I go, "Yeah." So Jason Walker comes picks me up because he's playing in the band too. We go to play Carnival Court, and the first song out of the gate is "I Want You to Want Me" by Cheap Trick. So we're playing it, and I'm a big Bunny Carlos fan. So I like the way he plays. So I play it like Bunny Carlos plays it. And we're playing the song, and halfway through the song, Ellis puts his guitar down and walks off on stage. I'm like, "What? What kind of gig is this? Do what I do already." And he comes back like 5 minutes later and picks up his guitar and acts like nothing's nothing. We finish the set. We're walking off stage. He's like, "Dude, gig's yours." He's like, "I just called and told the guy that runs the band, Minetti." He's like, "I just called and told Minetti that you're the new drummer and to fire the other guy."
That's
So Minetti
funny.
told me to do it, so I called and fired the other guy, is what Ellis said. So I was back 3 days, and then I had the gig and had that gig for like 12 or 13, maybe 14 years at that point.
That's funny, man. I'll never forget meeting Ellis. So, I he played with Brent Musket in Sin City Sinners, right?
Right.
Brent Musket from Faster Pussycat as well, and I had helped Brent rent out his house. Like he owned a couple of houses in Las Vegas, and he was renting some out. And I found him a tenant, and so he was going to give me like a finder's fee or whatever. So I went down to one of their gigs to collect it, And so I was talking to him, and he introduces me to Ellis. I had never met him before, and so I met Ellis, and whatever. That's that night. The very next night, and this was around Christmas. Nick, do you know Nikki Womble? Didn't
Oh yeah, I love. See, we know her as Nikki. Nikki played with us for about a year or
I
so
was gonna say
at
didn't
Mandalay
Nick?
Bay, and it was, because they wanted us to have a female singer on Saturday nights because they were going to book us Saturday, Sunday, Mondays, and they wanted us to have a female singer. And we had Sean Coey for a while, who
Oh,
was
I know
Ellis's
her.
girlfriend for a
Yep,
bit.
yep.
And then Nikki became available, so Sean became unavailable, and just so happens that Nikki became available. And I mean, the way that she works the crowd, and the way that her and Lombardo work together on stage, it was over the top. I mean, Nikki's pretty badass to begin with, but
Yeah.
just the way they worked, like she'd be grinding on Lombardo, and then she would get in the audience and grind on dudes, and just, I mean, it took our show over the top. It was great how it worked, and I love Nikki. She's in Australia now, but
Yeah, yeah. So
I love Nikki, man. I reach out to her every once in a while just to say hey, and she's just, as you go through life, you meet people that you know you just, they become lifelong, and fortunately for me, I have so many of those, and I'm very grateful for all that, and especially with those guys in the limit, and we've reconnected now, and Nikki, I mean, those people, everybody, as you grow older, you kind of decide, man, there's these people are the ones, and I do anything for these people, and then when they're not around, you really sorry, you um you kind of suffer for it in a sense, because you're so used to hanging out with your friends and doing what you love, and then something comes along and literally within a week takes all of that away and changes your life forever. And you really spend a lot of time trying to figure out how you're going to get that back. For me, it's playing in a band and doing stuff like that. And then recently I've just come to the realization that I'm never going to get that back. So I'm not really interested, honestly, in trying to do something of that level again, 3, 4 nights a week, just because it's not going to be the same. It's not going to make me happy,
Would,
you know?
would, would you say you reached the limit?
Yeah. Yeah. I reached, I reached that was, I mean, when I was, you have your first high school band, and luckily for me, I still see those guys probably at least once a week or once every other week, and we get together and play. Now that I'm in Vegas, and we just jam and bullshit, and there's no pretense of, hey, let's write new songs and put out a record, or let's go play a gig. We're just doing it because we enjoy each other's company, and I'm fortunate to still have those guys as lifelong friends, and nothing's ever going to change that. And, to go from that to, other bands in here in Vegas, like Race to Red and Drawing Boxes and, other lifelong friends I consider family, then you go from that. I moved to LA with the Race to Red boys, and then they decide to move back here and leave me in LA,
Mm.
you know? So that's when I ended up through my buddy Rob Brill. He calls me, and he's like, "Hey, Earshot's looking for a drummer, but they're doing some holiday shows. I'll hook you up with them after they get done with these shows."
What
He's
what
like,
year what year is this?
"That would be the end of 2002, I believe.
2002. Okay.
2002, 2003. Let me think. Oh, yeah, it would have been the end of 2002, 2003. So I reach out to Will Martin, the singer, and Will's like, "Yeah, dude, we got these shows, and then we're going to start immediately as soon as we get off the road from these shows, we're going to start writing and rehearsing for the next record." So I'm like, "Cool." So I get together, I meet the rest of the guys, and we start. I mean, the band, the four of us minus Will, we're locked in a rehearsal room like 10, 12 hours a day trying to write songs. And I was learning, we play a couple of the older tunes, and then we try to work on songs. And I mean, that went on for like 2 months every day doing that. Probably 6 days a week, right? We took Sundays off, and then everybody'd get together and watch football or something like that. So we did that. And then we recorded 3 or 4 songs we recorded demos for. And then at that point, they decided that I didn't play. And you can ask him, and Will won't deny it because it's such a funny thing. They said that I didn't play enough like John Bonham, which nobody's ever going to play. Well, nobody's ever going to play like John Bonham, but he is like my number 1 or number 2 influence, right? So, and to have an influence, like I wouldn't understand why a certain guitar player would be somebody's influence. I wouldn't get it. Just like a drummer, you wouldn't get it.
You're
Bonham,
a fan of Time? Oh,
right?
wow.
Well, like John Bonham influences me for different reasons than he influences a lot of people, because a lot of people don't understand. They just like, oh, it's he plays so hard, and he he plays his right foot, and while his right foot was amazing and nobody else was doing it at the time, to be honest, he didn't really play hard. Like if you watch those videos, he's not really playing that hard. He just knew how to tune a drum to make it sound massive. Because if you listen to a lot of the bootlegs and stuff, like I collect, obviously I got a Zeppelin shirt on, you really get to hear how the drums sound through the PA naturally, and they're actually tuned up a little bit higher than a lot of people. They just assume, oh, he's got thunderous drums, so they got to be tuned way low. No, they're not.
And this was
They're
before
actually
they
too
had
high.
this was before they had triggers and stuff for drums.
Oh yeah. He wouldn't have never have gone down that road. That he just seemed to me to be a traditionalist. His main guys were jazz people.
Yeah.
But you listen to it, and that's what inspires me is the fact that he was able to do all of that and have so much swing and not and make it appear like he's playing hard and get that volume and that tone out of a drum without hitting it too hard and choking it out. Because the harder you hit a drum, it's not going to get any louder. You're just going to start affecting the noise, the noise that comes from it, the sound, I should say, the tone. So he knew how to hit a drum to get the best sound out of it. And he knew how to swing, and you can't swing hitting a drum as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah, no, it's
You
just,
know,
it doesn't sound good if you do.
right. It's just not possible, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So when you're younger as a drummer, you hit harder because you think that's what you need to do. You don't really have that grasp on anything. You're just, that's what you think you need to do. And then as you get older and shit starts to hurt on a daily basis after a gig, you realize, you don't have to hit them that hard. Because if you wake up the next day and your hands hurt, you hit the drums way too hard.
So speaking of Bonham, am I mistaken, or didn't you play for Zoe Bonham? Is that his daughter, or
Yeah,
am I
so
just confused? Or
no, that would have been 99 to 2000. I did play in her band for a while. During that time, we did hang out with, obviously Jason Bonham. I met Pat Bonham, who was John's wife, Zoe's mom. I met John's mom. I met Robert Plant, which was huge. That was a pretty big deal
wow,
for me.
yeah, I bet.
Uh, right. But I mean, that was my first real experience of the LA music scene.
Yeah.
But it was on a different thing because
So that was pre Sea Monkeys, right?
uh
I feel like it
yeah,
was, because
like
I feel like when I was running around with you guys, you and Gene and those guys, I feel like you were already a part of that. I feel like that's
well,
why I want to
it
say I
was
remembered it.
kind of the during the same time. Like the Sea
Yeah,
Monkeys kind of ended somewhere in like 99, 98, 99, somewhere
yeah,
in there. So it was
yeah.
right around the same time I was going back and forth. And uh that's when I that kind of folded, and I don't know why, honestly. It was just kind of Zoe just kind of became she just I wouldn't like I love Zoe and would love to sit down and just talk to her and catch up. I don't have anything bad to say other than the fact that the telephone just stopped ringing.
Yeah.
And
Well, that
and
happens with a
but
lot of
right,
people,
right,
I mean,
right.
and sometimes it's just like, I mean, if I hadn't run into Ellis and we ran into you at the limit that night, who knows if you and I would have reconnected? You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's just a circumstance of events where you fall back
Right.
into one another's lives.
Right.
But I want to ask you, so uh, like when you were in LA after Earshot, and you said you got stuck there, is that what you said?
Well, no, no, no. So I was doing Earshot, then Earshot, I debonhomed, let's say, right?
Okay.
So immediately I had gotten on the phone with my buddy Ron Rutledge, who at the time ran A&M Studios, Henson Studios, down there in Hollywood. So I reached out to Ron, and at this point, I had already done a 3-song EP with George Lynch.
Okay, that's so
And
okay. This is where I was going with it. I was going to ask you, is that when you met George, and how you met George?
yeah, well,
So
I
yeah,
met
I'm glad you went there.
my buddy. I owe all of this bullshit to my buddy Rob Brill, because when I was in Race to Red, we all went down to L.A. to Henson Studios and recorded a record that we never released. I mean, and we were such freaking idiots about it because we blocked out 2 days worth of studio time at Henson Recording Studios. We got a deal, but still, it was so. I mean, this place is world famous. We're in a room recording drums for this record, right? 2 days of recording drums. We're recording drums for this record, and then the next studio over, it's Abe Laboriel Jr. recording drum tracks for a Mariah Carey record.
Yeah.
And then the next studio over, it was Jane's Addiction recording their Strays record, right? With Bob Ezrin, who happened to be the one that
Oh
recorded
yeah,
Pink
he's the
Floyd's The
man.
Wall, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
So and numerous other things that I'm sure there's I don't know what off the top of my head, but I know The Wall for sure. But we're sitting there and I'm going, man, this place is it, dude. There's the Carpenters recorded all their stuff there. Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass. All these bands record. That place has so much history. You know, and here I am recording drums there, and the engineer was my buddy Rob Brill. So Rob calls. I get there early one day to do the Lynch Mob stuff, and Rob's like, "Come here, dude." And he brings me into this other studio, and it's Sugar Ray's recording a record. He's like,
Okay.
do me a favor, go out there and hit the kick drum. So I go out there, he hits the record button. I hit the dude's, I think it's like a 24 or 26-inch kick drum. I just do my thing, hit it 5 or 6 times. He's like, perfect, now get out. He
Okay.
used that sound as the sample to fly over that dude's kick drum on the parts of the record because the dude didn't really hit the kick drum like me. Right? So he used that sample to fly in. So somewhere I might even be the kick drum sound on a Sugar Ray single that was on the radio at the time. I don't know.
Well, I will say that I do remember back in those '90s years, you had, I believe it was a Tama kit, and that
Oh,
thing,
right.
yeah, that thing hit, dude.
Yeah, I had it was purple and white, and it was a Tama kit. It had Tama hardware on it, but I ordered shells and then had them stained purple, and then I had white hardware from a blue and white Tama kit that I put on the purple kit, and I still have those drums, and they're just real thin Keller shells, which Keller makes drum shells, obviously, and they're real thin and they're real light, but they're the older power toms, which are deeper.
Yeah.
And those drums, hands down, sound well. I mean, they're 35 years old at this
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
30 years old. But those drums, hands down, sound better than any other kit I've ever owned in my entire life. And I've owned almost every drum manufacturer, and they're just amazing. I would take them in the studio any day of the week.
Fuck yeah, dude. They sound so killer. But
Oh yeah.
I wanna ask you about Lynch Mob. Uh, so for those of you that don't know out there, Lynch Mob is a band fronted by, well, he plays guitar by George Lynch is his name. He was in the band Dokken. He is a guitar hero, just an absolute beast on the guitar, one of the best around. He's one of my favorites. How did you? We just heard how you got there, but what was it like playing with him, and like what was your approach to like what you were gonna do with him? I mean, because he's such like he's on another level as a musician. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
he.
George is interesting because that was Rob Brill going, "Hey George, I got somebody that'll play on this EP." So I go down to Henson Studios, and of course, I mean, my fake ID got taken away at Calamity Jane's when I was trying to get in to see Lynch Mob on the Wicked Sensation tour. So
I got thrown out of Pinkies because I didn't have a fake ID back in the day when
nice.
I had met you, man.
So yeah, I get down there. George hands me the song, goes, "All right, dude, listen to him over the weekend, and we'll record him on Monday." So I borrow some good sounding drums from a buddy down in LA because I don't know if I have my purple kit down there or not. I don't think I did. But we go in and record the 3 songs, and it's the Lynch That Stole Riffness EP. It
Okay.
was like a Christmas EP, and it's got like the Grinch on the cover with George's tiger stripe guitar or something.
His
Anyways,
famous guitar. Yeah, I remember
right.
that.
So I record those 3 songs, and then Lynch is like, "Man, we got to put a band together. Who do you want to sing?" And I said, "Well, I want Jizzy Pearl. I think Jizzy would be awesome." But at the time, Jizzy was singing for Rat, and I didn't
Right,
know
yeah.
Jizzy at that time. So that never came to fruition. But then I got fired from the Earshot thing, and I called my buddy Ron Rutledge, and Ron says, "Dude, give me a few days. I might have something for you." So he calls me back this was a Friday. He calls me back on a Monday. and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "I got a tour. Do you want a tour?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got nothing else going on. I don't have a job. What do you got for me?" He's like, "Well, Lynch Mob's going back out, and they need a drummer, and it's George, and it's Anthony Esposito, who's the original
Bass
OG
player.
bass player for
Yep.
Lynch Mob, and it's Robert Mason who sang on
Oh
the
yeah.
second record, right?
Also, singer for Warrant. For those that
Singer
don't
for
know.
currently the singer for Warrant. I just talked to him yesterday, ironically.
Oh
Currently the
wow.
singer for Warrant, and he
Hey, was
sang.
it yesterday? Was Janie's um, the anniversary of Janie's death?
Oh no, you're right.
It
And
was.
dude, I didn't even put two and two together. I mean, I talked to Mason for other reasons yesterday because we
Sure.
we
I'm
reach
sure you
out
guys
as
don't talk
as
about
we-
Janie.
No, but
But rest in peace, Janie, man. He
right,
was such a kind soul, the original singer from Warrant.
yeah.
Such a blessed human being. I'm so glad I got to meet him. I don't know how many times over the
Well,
years.
Sea Monkeys opened
But
up for him millions of times at Pink, probably half a dozen times at Pinky's.
yeah,
So, so I show up to rehearse, and I had come back to Vegas and grabbed that purple kit. So I show up to rehearse for this tour with that purple kit, and I set it up, and they walk in, and they're like, "Dude, what the f is this garbage?" I'm like, "Looks like shit, sounds amazing. Well, we can't take this on tour." I said, "Well, it's all I've got," and I'm thinking, "Oh, dude, they're gonna can me, right?" So we rehearse for 2 weeks with that kit, and then Ron reaches out to one of the guys at Guitar Center, the artist relations guys, and gets me a DW kit for the tour. We like rented a DW kit for the tour. So we toured for 2 to 3 weeks up and down the West Coast, and like as far back as like Colorado. And dude, the second show was at the Key Club. So they decide, oh, we're going to record the audio and we're going to make a live CD and a live DVD. Great. Second show. If you listen to that recording, it's called Revolution Live because they were touring on this Revolution record where George was using a baritone guitar, right? So it's all weird versions of Lynch Mob and Dawkins songs kind of tuned down. So we're touring on that record, and we had rehearsed every day for 2 weeks. So the band was tight, but it just wasn't as tight as if they would have recorded the show a month and a half later, after being on the road and really figuring out how to work with each other. But if you listen to that recording, if anybody's ever heard it, and it's on YouTube, you can find it on YouTube, like the live DVD. Everything, and this is how badass Robert Mason is. All of the audio on that live recording was replaced in the studio. Like we sat down and watched the video and re-recorded our parts. Mason's vocals are the only thing that stayed.
wow.
That's how badass Mason is because his vocals are the only original thing from that second show that made it on to the live DVD and the live CD. Even the video isn't from that show. The video is all from the Chance Theater in Poughkeepsie, New York, and that was on the second run of shows we did, which was like 3 weeks on the East Coast.
Yeah. Dude, Robert is a badass. I've met him one time. They were out with Skid Row one time,
Right.
and so I met him with Skid Row. But yeah, he's a badass. He sang on the first Lynch Mob album.
The
Um,
second Lynch
the
Mob album.
second one. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. The first one, Wicked Sensation, Ani Logan, bad motherfucker right there.
Right.
What I was gonna ask, did Anthony Esposito, did he play the whole time with you, or did Robbie Crane, was he a part of
No.
that too?
So
No.
the two little tours that we did on the West Coast and East Coast, it was all Anthony. And Anthony and I like butted heads a little bit, and I don't think it was completely either one of our faults. It was George had hired another guy to do the tour, and the guy and Anthony.
Can you name him?
Yeah, Michael Frowein, and I never
Okay.
met Michael, and I mean he's a great drummer, dude. If you listen to the Revolution CD, like I think he played on the Lynch Pilsen CD
Oh
too.
wow.
He's a great drummer, dude. Probably a hell of a nice guy. I never met him, so I don't have anything bad to say about the guy because I've never met him, and I'm sure he's an awesome dude. So, Mike, if you ever get a chance to see this, bro, I got love for you, even though we never met. So. Yeah, so Anthony buys these used bass cabinets or something off of eBay, and they're coming from the Bay Area where Michael lives. So Anthony says, "Hey, dude, would you bring these bass cabinets down if I buy them?" So Michael's like, "Yeah." Michael's bringing his drums and his bass cabinet down for Anthony, right? So George tells Anthony, "Well, if you're going over there to pick up your bass cabinets, you can fire this guy at the same time because we're going to use Chaz." So George made Anthony do his dirty work,
Damn.
right? So I didn't know any of this was going on. I didn't know that the other guy, that Michael was coming down to go on tour. I had no idea. So Anthony probably had some animosity towards me because he had to do that bullshit, and I showed up with purple drums, right?
You and your damn
But
purple drum. If
but
you would have left them
Anthony,
white, they probably would have been all right.
right, but the funny thing is like Anthony, out of that whole thing, as far as the music goes, Anthony's the one that helped me out the most. Like Anthony taught me a lot of things about playing with the bass player that I'd never really paid attention to before. Like locking in and
I was
doing
gonna say that groove when you're like in that pocket, right?
right and doing a lot of the same things every night to maximize how tight we were. So we worked out a lot of little like fills and stuff that we played the same every night so that we would just be locked in. And so and I've told Anthony that, and even though Anthony and I kind of butted heads a lot with stuff like that, dude, I love that guy to death, and that was kind of goes back to what I was saying before. As you get older, dude, you just whatever little bullshit that you dealt with before between each other just kind of falls to the wayside, and all you want to do is just hear from your friends every once in a while. And when you do, dude, it just makes your day. Kind of
Yeah,
like hearing from Mason yesterday,
that's
and
cool.
and so we did that, and then we were supposed to go out on tour with Ingve.
Oh
So
wow.
we all flew back home to the West Coast, and all of our equipment went with the tour manager, Dean Mersil, down to Florida to his storage unit. And then I'm back home, so I take my then girlfriend, now wife, Cynthia. We go on a little, out of town 2 or 3 day thing, and we're driving back into town. I'll never forget, dude. I'm on the 215, right there where the right there where the 215 and Lake Mead hit,
Okay.
right there. And we're driving on the 215 coming back into town from Laughlin, of all places. And my phone rings and it's George. I'm like, "Hey, dude, what's going on?" He's like, "Well, I wanted to call and let you know I'm going to fold the band." I'm like, "Huh?"
He's
He's like,
done that.
"Dad,"
He's done that a few times over
a
the
little bit.
years, I guess,
And,
huh?
and he said, it's just not really what I want to do. I'm like, "Dude, my drums are in Florida." Right? And he's like, "Well, I'm going to pay Dean to drive them all back to LA, so you're going to have to come to LA to get your drums."
That's kind of a dick move.
Little bit. So I'm like, "Well, okay." So I look at Cynthia. I'm like, "Well, I don't have a gig anymore, And that was my first time ever being on a tour bus. Like I'd had no experience with that. I'd never even been on a tour bus
So,
before.
all
I
right,
think.
let me ask you a quick question because I asked all the guys in the phone booth in episode 1, did you take a shit on the tour bus?
No, dude, that's bad news. No, you absolutely do not, dude. You got to hot bag it.
You got to listen to Ted's answer. Should I tell you or should I make you tune in?
No,
he
no,
said
don't tell
he said he shit on top of the bus.
me. Well, I've never climbed on top of the bus, but not. And, honestly, I never hot bagged it either. And
Okay.
and it's something you don't do, man. You just after a while you realize that it's just not something you do. And some buses have like a grinder down there that allows you to do that. But dude, I'm gonna tell you that that's really the last thing you want to do. But if you have 10 dudes on a bus, like five band members, which there was only 4 band members in Lynch Mob, and then like 3 or 4 crew members, right? So like 8 people on the bus, everybody
And the
pissing in that
driver.
everybody pissing in that toilet
Ooh.
after a dude. It is just from piss. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible, dude. Not as luxurious as anybody would think it is. It's terrible.
And it's not after 6 months, it's after 2 days.
Yeah, and I mean they can put all kinds of chemicals down there to treat it, and it still smells terrible.
Speaking
But
of putting chemicals down it, we can put some of these toilet scents from Lux Bidet down there. They sent me all these that you drop these in the water, and it's
right,
supposed to prevent the stank. You know,
right, yeah,
so
dude, you better get a 5-pound brick to drop down a bus toilet.
you use that with your Lux bidet and your booty bidet candle. You know, you're good to go. This is called the Booty Breeze right here.
Oh, I got my own version of Booty Breeze.
I bet.
So yeah, dude, it was a lot of fun, and it was we were in New York, and everything was still a mess down there, and I was able to see across the harbor to see the Statue of Liberty, and I had never been to New York before, New York City. So we fly back there on the Lynch Mob tour, and I get off the airplane and go to get in a cab, and I'm kind of dozing off in the cab. We're crossing the bridge, and then we come out into New York City, and I'm looking out the cab, and I can't see the tops of the buildings because the window's up, and I don't want to roll the window down and look my head out the window. I couldn't see the tops of the buildings, and I had never seen like a water thing on top of a building. I'd never seen anything like that. So New York was pretty wild. And then we toured all through like Connecticut and Maine and New Jersey. I'd never been to Jersey before, and that's Mason. That's kind of like Mason is a Bronx boy, so he knows where he's going back there. And Espo grew up in New York, so they knew about everything. If you want to go see this, go 3 blocks here, then you got to go 37 blocks, but it's better to walk the 37 blocks. And I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, as green as I was back then, they really took me under their wing, especially Mason and Esposito. Like, they threw me. I bunked with George. Like, all of our hotel rooms, they put me with George, which is fine.
You're the newbie. You're the newbie, man. You gotta be thrown into the flames.
And I mean, George. Look, man, George is a great guy.
So you shared the hotel room with George. How bad did his shit stink?
I don't know, man. I never. He was.
I'm just kidding.
No. He was pretty cool. I mean, I got my check every week, and yeah, and I can't complain about that at all. George, he's like, you don't have any rock star clothes. I'm like, dude, jeans and a t-shirt. He's like, no. So he took me shopping and got
What's
me.
What's funny is he does not wear any rock star clothes. Like,
no.
Now, if you look at this guy, he's in a fucking t-shirt and shorts and flip flops everywhere he goes.
Right. But he was cool, but I just remember like Mason would make this coffee, and I wasn't a huge coffee drinker, but Mason would make this coffee, and we called it rocket fuel, and this had to be the strongest like coffee ever, bro. And Mason would make that, and then Mason's the one that turned me on to the finer points of mixing tuna and salsa.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try that, I guess.
Just don't go overboard on each. You got to find that happy medium, and it's actually really good, and it's healthy for you. It's really healthy for you. So Mason turned me on to that, and then we were back east somewhere in like Pennsylvania or something, and Mason's playing this CD on the bus. I'm like, dude, what is this? He's like, Cry of Love.
Oh,
and I'm like,
those guys rock.
I think I heard their first song
They're almost like 70s sounding or something, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he
Brother?
goes, "Well, this is
Is
a."
that the name of
I'm
the
like,
record? Brother? Is that it?
"That's the first record, yes."
Okay, yeah.
And then he's playing this music, and I'm like, "Dude, that's you." And he's like, "Yeah, I sang on the second Cry I Love record, but I don't own a copy." And a fan was kind enough to bring me a copy. He's like, "You want a copy?
Holy
I'll burn
shit.
you a copy."
That's
So,
back in the day when CD burning was a thing.
right, you just stuck it in your laptop and copied it. Now
Right?
laptops don't even have CD
Yeah,
things in them.
they sure
But
don't.
he burned it for me, and man, I wore that thing out. And this, I used to walk around, outside the venue and walk around these, you know, uh, little towns, and I had a CD Walkman, you know,
It's
and
called
I
it's
just
called
walked
it's
around.
called a Discman, old man.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, right. So I remember buying, going in and buying like a Deftones CD and a Third Eye Blind CD while I was on tour and listening to those and that Cry I Love CD the whole time, while we were on tour. And Mason always, was so terribly cool to me and like went out of his way to uh, just really be super cool to me and really take me under his wing. And I never pass up the opportunity to tell him how much I appreciate him for that. And that's why when I had him on the other end of the phone yesterday, it was just, it was cool to talk to a friend I haven't spoke to. And it's probably been maybe a year since I spoke to him, but we pick up and within 60 seconds, it's like we were still in a band together, bullshitting and talking,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And after the lynch mob thing folded, I was back in Vegas at that point, and the Earshot, my buddy Rob Brill called me. He's like, "Hey, Earshot's recording the record, and you want to hear something funny?" He said, "They're A-Bing your demos to the tracks that the guy's actually recording, and your tracks sound more like Bonham and more like what they're trying to go for. So they want to know if you'd be interested in coming down and playing on a couple of the tunes on the record. 2 tunes." I'm like, "All right, well, they got to pay for my rental car. I'll come down for a day." So I come down for a day. They pay for my rental car. They pay for my food and everything. And they're going to pay me like $200 a song or something. Right. And then they're like, "Hey, you finished those songs pretty quick. You want to do another one?" So I decided, yeah, dude, I'll do another one. So I did 3. Then they're like, "Dude, would you stay tomorrow and do another one?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, but you got to pay for my rental car. I can't afford it." So I stayed the next day and ended up doing 2 more. And I don't remember what the 5th song was. I don't even know if it made the record. I have no idea. But I'm on 4 songs on the record on Earshot 2. I believe it's Down, Someone, Wait, and Control, I think. And so I did those 4, did a 5th one. I don't know if the 5th one made the record. I don't even remember what song it was. But I was originally only going to do 2, ended up doing 4. And then like 6 months later, I get a phone call from Rob again. And he's like, "Hey, Will wanted me to call you and see if you'd be interested in auditioning for Earshot." I'm like, "Auditioning, dude? I was already in the band."
Right? What the
So
fuck
I
is
call
that?
Will. I'm like, "All right, dude, what's up?" He's like, "Would you come down to LA for a couple days and audition?" I'm like, "Let's do it this way. I'll come down and play for a couple days. How's that?" So I get down there, set up. Cynthia and I take a couple days, go down there. I set up in the rehearsal room, and we start playing a couple of the older tunes, and then we start working on a couple new tunes. And I'm getting reacquainted with everybody, and everybody in that band's absolute joy to hang out with. And so later on that night, Will calls me and says, "Hey, dude, I'm gonna pick you up. You're riding with me to jam tomorrow." So he picks me up. He's like, "Hey, so here's the deal. We're gonna go out on tour in April, opening up for Seven Dust. Do you want to go?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I want to go." Because last time, I was working at Guitar Center at the time, which was great. But I'm like, "Dude, I'm going out on tour. I'm riding a tour bus. I'm going to open up for Seven Dust every night." So then it's like, hey, I go down to LA. I stay with my buddy Rob Brill at his house for 3 weeks. We rehearse, and then the Seven Dust tour gets canceled. Like Seven Dust is gonna postpone a little bit. So they're like, "Look, man, just go back home for a month and then we're lining something else up. So I come back home, and then a month later, they're like, "Hey, we booked this show at the Roxy, I
Yep.
think it was.
Down
We
in
booked,
on
yeah,
Sunset
down
in
in
LA.
LA."
Yep.
So he's like, "We booked this show at the Roxy, but I need you to come in the day before because we're gonna do a photo shoot for Hit Parader." And I think not one other magazine. I've got them somewhere in a
Circus
hub in
or one of
storage.
those Hit Parader or one of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we do the photo shoot. We do the gig at the Roxy the next day, and then we get all. I come back home to finish packing because the bus is driving through Vegas on our way out on tour. Because at that point, we're doing a couple of radio festivals. Then we're going to be opening up for Shinedown, and Shinedown was on their first record at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So I go home and pack, and then Cynthia drives me to meet the bus at like 3:30 in the morning, right? So I get my bunk on the bus. I lay down. I go to sleep. Where do I wake up? St. George, Utah, 2 hours away from Vegas. And so we have to spend the whole day there because the bus driver has to sleep.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I could have spent another day at home and just had Cynthia drive me up to St. George. So I call Cynthia, and at this time, Utah only had 3.2 beer. So
Oh,
it
that's
wasn't as
right.
strong. So I called Cynthia. I'm like, can you drive up here and bring us some beer? Everybody's going to pitch in and give you money if you bring us beer. So she drives up to St. George with a trunk full of beer, and
That's
everybody
funny.
gives her money and everything. And she hangs out on the bus and meets everybody. And at that time, I had brought out as my drum tech Dean Mersil, who had been the tour manager when I went out with Lynch Mob. So I brought Dean out as my drum tech. And so, Dean had met Cynthia before. So they were hanging out, and we were all hanging out on the bus. And then it was time to leave because you usually travel at night because the
Yeah.
bus driver sleeps during the day.
Yep.
So our next stop was Glenwood Springs, Colorado, as we were making our way to Kansas City for this radio festival. So by the time we get to Kansas City, that radio festival, I mean, I'm getting ready to walk up on stage. My hands are cramped because I'm nervous as shit because this is like the first time I'm going to play in front of like 15,000 people. And I struggled the entire time. My hands were so cramped that I was having a hard time holding drumsticks.
I bet.
And I made it through the gig, and I was just so stressed out. And
But afterwards, wasn't it such like a rush? Like I survived that. Like I made it through that. Like such
yeah, but
that perseverance. Like
I just beat myself up over it because I'm like, man, I just played in front of 15,000 people, and I couldn't give them exactly what I know I could give them, So that was a hard lesson to learn. And then as we made it through the tour, I got relaxed, and I didn't really worry about shit like that anymore. But we did like 3 weeks with Shinedown, and then we switched over to Saliva and did like 3 months with Saliva, 3 or 4 months with Saliva. And during this time, we were doing radio festivals, and we were doing shows with Damage Plan, Tesla,
oh man,
which was
Damage Plan.
huge because, I mean, I was like, oh, I love Pantera, and they changed my life when I saw them in '92, at the Huntridge. But, I was like, fuck, dude, that's Troy Luccketta from Tesla, who's never put out
Badass.
a bad record.
He's a
And
badass.
I get to stand 15 feet from him off to the side of the stage and watch that guy play.
Yeah.
He was such an influence as far as like how he grooved and how he constructed his parts. And that was huge for me. And then watching Dime and Vinny, that was huge. And Monster Magnet. And then we started playing shows with Velvet Revolver. And we played Halloween with Velvet Revolver, and Slash came out dressed as Buckethead.
That's pretty funny.
And Duff came out dressed as I think he came out in a dress, and Weiland came out dressed as Axl Rose.
Wow. Like with a full wig, everything.
Yeah, I have some pictures, I think.
Dude, that's
But,
awesome. Hey,
yeah.
can I play this video that you sent me the other day? You just played this a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago?
Oh, yeah.
I'll play this just to show because I can't get copyrighted for this shit. This is even though it's Led Zeppelin, it's live, it's recorded from somebody else. I should be good.
Come on, man.
But then I want to get into some other stuff after we play
Right.
this video. I want to get into aliens and paranormal shit with you
Right.
before we have to wrap it up. So let's play this real quick. Let me share this.
Right format. Right format.
Oh man, what? Is there no audio? What's going on?
There is no audio, sir. Oh, yeah, good.
All right. So I don't want to play the whole video, because I want
Right.
to keep it here with you, dude. But you're still out there playing. And what was that night there? Because that was just 2 weeks ago, I think it was when you said
Yeah, so that was like 2 weeks ago, and my buddy Joe, he had called me up and he said, "Hey, my band's doing a thing at the Sand Dollar Lounge, which is just like a cool kind of underground lounge here in town."
Dude, and
They're like a bar.
they have fantastic craft cocktails for those of you in or around Las Vegas, or if you're going to Las Vegas, go over there and try their drinks. They're amazing.
Yeah, it's just a cool place, dude. It's like
The Sand
you
Dollar.
know,
I used to sling concert tickets out of the back of that place back in the 90s, dude.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. So he's like, my band we're doing the first set's going to be Zep 4, then we're doing a set of covers, random covers in between, and then we're going to do Dark Side of the Moon for the last set. He's like, I want to play harmonica. Can you come play Levy? And I'm like, yeah. And I kind of, after all these years of playing, I really had an epiphany. An epiphany. I had an epiphany.
Epiphany?
That's what Scott from Earshot used to call him because he's French, so he could never say epiphany, so he would call it an epiphany.
Right.
So I had an epiphany that night, and like playing that song, there is a lot of opportunity in that song to really overplay and try to, you know, you feel like oh man, I can really show what I can do and impress somebody. But my epiphany that night was just play it as solid and as simple as possible, because if you listen to the original recording, it's very simple. And here's one for you when it comes to Bonham. Go and listen to the studio version of Immigrant Song. There's no toms in that song at
Wow.
all. There's barely any drum fills in that song. There's no toms in that song at all. And that night, and there were other drummers in the room, but that was the first night that I had played in front of people in over a year and played in front of like behind a drum kit at a proper volume because I don't in Utah, I don't want to disturb the neighbors, so I don't have my drum kit set up. You know, it just sits in cases, like it's in the other room now in cases. You know, and I brought it down here in case somebody called me for a gig because I'm here for a while. But when it comes to that night, all I wanted to do was just play that song and groove because everybody else on the stage were fantastic players. And they're the ones, it was their gig, it was Joey's gig, and I wasn't there to show anybody up. I was there to accompany them in what they were doing. So I tried to stick as close as possible to the feel of the song and what it represents that night. So I just really wanted to just kind of lay back and keep it slow and kind of keep it in the pocket. And even on that clip, I just noticed now that I sped up just a little bit. But if you continue with the clip, as we get back into where I'm just holding down that groove, it comes back down.
Yeah.
Right. And that was what was so important to me that night. And that's why I've watched that clip probably 50 times after that gig because I watch it and I'm like, I really feel good about it for a couple of reasons. One, it was the first time I had played in a really long time and I was really nervous about it because I didn't get to rehearse with anybody. I didn't get to warm up. I just walked up on stage, grabbed a pair of drumsticks and played, and there were other drummers in the room who were big Bonham fans, and I just
Well, that place, they draw a good musician crowd in there. Like, it's the best. I mean, fucking Ted Nugent used to play in there and shit. Like when he would roll through town. Like,
right,
I mean, fucking everybody would go in there.
right. I just went there like a month ago, and it started at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was a Zappa tribute band from like Michigan or Minnesota. And they actually had Ray White, who lives in Vegas, who I'd met before. He was a Zappa band alumni. He actually set in with the band. And it was cool. I have a recording. I didn't stay the whole time, but I have a recording of it somewhere. But I didn't stay the whole time. But they do cool stuff like that all the time. And I keep threatening to just pull like 3 or 4 of my buddies together, learn a bunch of Allman Brothers tunes, and go play there without rehearsing. Just like show up and go, all right, dude, we're playing these 7 songs. You know what I mean? Or put together something with some friends and just do a bunch of instrumental stuff. Like,
Hey, Chaz, you know what you should do? Call Ellis.
right. Yeah. And just like, go in there and play some Zappa and some Dixie Dregs and some Jeff Beck and just not even have a need for a singer because singers are so tough to nail down, but just go in there and play some cool stuff that would be fun for us.
Yeah.
But they have like, Grateful Dead bands in there all the time. And it's just a really cool place.
It really is.
The sound, this at Sand Dollar,
it's a hidden gem in Las Vegas because
Yes.
people go to Las Vegas and they stay on the strip. This is about what would you say, a half a mile off the strip, maybe? Like
Yeah,
it's right near it.
if you know where Treasure Island is,
Yes,
it's literally you
Spring
can walk there from
Spring
Treasure Island.
Mountain
You
in
just
Las
have to walk up
Vegas.
over.
Right? Spring Mountain in Las Vegas.
Yeah, Spring Mountain and
It's
Spring
like by
Mountain
Valley View,
and,
right?
and the I-15 basically.
Yeah. I think the street right past 15 is Valley View. So
Yeah, I think there's an adult superstore across the
there probably is.
It's right down the street from Chinatown. Actually.
Yeah, which is where the Golden Tiki is, which
Never
I
been
used to
there.
work at. Oh man, what a fabulous place that place is, man.
Right.
It's like an escape from the world, man. It's nuts there.
Right. So,
But hey, well, I'm going to be getting into that in a future episode. I'm having the creator of that place is coming on the podcast,
nice.
and he's got a new place opening up in Las Vegas, which I'm going to go ahead and shout out right now as a shameless
Good.
plug.
When you're in touch with that guy, tell him to get me in there and let me do a paranormal investigation after hours if they shut down.
Oh, they already did it. Zach, what's his name? Zach Baggins.
Yeah, but that's TV, bro. I don't want TV.
All right.
I want to just go in
Well,
there.
he's not involved with that place anymore, but I might be able to get you in touch with some people that are.
All
But
right.
shout out to Brandon Powers and the Golden Tiki, and Brandon has got a new place. Brandon designed the whole Golden Tiki. That's his child, that he nurtured, and now he's got a new place opening up on the 22nd of this month, August 22nd, 2025. It's going to be called Pachi Pachi, and it's downtown. I don't know the exact street or address. It's downtown Las Vegas near Fremont Street, and it's going to be similar in ways to the Golden Tiki, where it's just that unique architecture and design and just crazy visuals around you. It's like you're in Disneyland on acid or something, but it's going to have like an Asian theme to it. Like I don't know a whole lot about it, but I mean it looks pretty badass from the pictures I've seen and whatnot. So he's going to be coming on, I believe, in about a month or so, and we'll get more into that. But um, let's get back to the Sand Dollar, just being such a phenomenal place, which is right there in Chinatown, right by it. They got amazing musicians come through there all the time. They've got some of the best bartenders in Las Vegas. They pour good craft cocktails for those of you that are looking for a good drink too. And I
Right.
mean, that's one of the better places. Unfortunately, it's kind of it's not very popular. Not a lot of people know about it, that come to town,
Right.
like
And
it's not a tourist destination, if you will.
no, but a lot of times if you get into a cab, which are still a thing in Vegas, right? If you get into a cab and you say, "Hey, I want to go to a cool bar that's kind of local underground," they'll take people to the Sand Dollar.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know?
that's true. Or the dive bar is another good one too. That's kind
Yeah,
of
I've never been in the new dive bar, so I don't even know if I was ever in. I think I played one, maybe two shows with Jizzo at the old dive bar.
okay. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, on Tropicana and like what was it
Yeah,
Pecos or something?
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, let's shift gears and talk about you're into paranormal and alien shit, right?
Yeah.
What
So go ahead.
like I want to talk about aliens first. Like what I know you used to listen to Art Bell and stuff like that, and of course being in Las Vegas, we're right near Area 51, so it's like a common thing. But you've had podcasts where you talk to experts and stuff about whatever an alien expert is. but like I mean, what like give me your thoughts, man.
Okay, so here's my thoughts on the whole. I'll kind of give you the background of how I got into it. I mean, obviously, you had Close Encounters of the Third Kind back in the day. And then after that, you had Poltergeist, the movie Poltergeist and Exorcist. And I remember watching The Exorcist when I was a kid. And I mean, it scared the shit out of you. And then I remember watching Poltergeist. And the first time I watched Poltergeist, same reaction. I mean, it terrified me. Then the second time I watched it, it was no big deal. It was like night and day. But those movies, I mean, The Exorcist scares you for different reasons because it's loosely based on a true story, but the story, the original, was actually a boy and not a girl, right? So it's based on a true story loosely, but I mean, it was so terrifying. I mean, people when that movie came out and people would go see it in movie theaters, some people got physically ill, like
Yeah.
launching cookies in the movie theater, and because I mean, if you grew up in religion, especially as a Catholic, I mean, hell exists, and that's those people, it hit them especially hard and at that time I didn't know about Amityville Horror or anything like that, and that's based on a true story. Whether those people actually experienced that, or there's people that go both ways on that. Anyways, so I always grew up reading books, and it was reading like the stories of ghosts, and then it became I had a job where there was a lot of downtime on the job. So I would go buy books. And I would go to, I don't even remember the place. It was on Spring Mountain. It was kind of one of those places where you could go get a lot of candles and incense, and it was just kind of like an occult bookstore. And they had a huge selection of UFO books.
Was
So
it
I
like
would
off
go
a
to,
rainbow or something? Yeah.
no, it was Spring Mountain or Flamingo or something. Anyways, so I would go there once a week and buy a new UFO book and start reading it. And then I had discovered Art Bell, and because Art Bell
Art
was just
Bell.
over the mountain, 60 miles away, I felt like I was part of an insider's club because he was literally, I could listen to him on the radio and know that I could drive over the mountain and be, I didn't know where he lived at the time. I've been there once now, but I could drive over the mountain and somewhere in the Pahrump Valley, he's there and I'm listening to him and he's there. So it felt like an insider's club, part of a insider's thing. But I mean, I started buying books and just reading book after book after book. And this is before I even really got into the ghost thing because none of the TV shows were out. So I was all UFO stuff and listening to Art Bell and just diving into like the monuments on Mars and the face and the D&M pyramid and the five-sided pyramid and the Tholis and all these crazy things on Mars. And then buying all these books about all these old UFO reports and Roswell and really diving into Roswell and then X-Files. Watching X-Files every week and all of that stuff just really cemented this whole thing of like, I know that shit's real. It has to be real because chances are not all of these people are making it up. There's got to be something legitimate to some of this stuff. John Lear was in Vegas and he was kind of like
Yeah.
considered one of the main guys in ufology back in the late 80s and early 90s. And you had George Knapp, and then dude, you had Bob Lazar in Area 51, which is right over a mountain range from here.
Yeah.
You know,
I think Bob Lazar, really for me, the Bob Lazar gives the most credibility to some stories, and it's not because of what he said about, um, you know, being on S4 and all this secret shit. It was that he talked about the element, was it element
115.
115, element 115, which was not on the periodic table of elements back when he was talking about that stuff, and then
Right.
it's finally been added to the table of elements. So that, I believe that gives him some credibility in the things that he says. Now, I don't necessarily agree to everything he says. I don't know everything he says, but I think that gives him some credibility. Just the fact that alone wasn't a thing in 19, was it 86? I think he said it.
Well, it started like 87, 88, and he finally came
87,
out. George Knapp had him on the TV in like 89, I think, where he was
89.
backlit, and they called him Dennis because of
Okay.
his boss's name was Dennis at the time out there. But I kind of look at it this way: he tells this story, and immediately they start messing with him. They ransack his house. He
Yeah.
had some of that 115. It got stolen. They tap his phones. They do all this crazy stuff to him. And he's telling this story. You know what? His story is so unbelievable to most people that aren't really into this that if they would have never messed with him and never done anything to him, nobody would have ever believed it. But the
Yeah.
fact that they messed with him and pretty much made him disappear as far as his records are concerned. They essentially erased him.
Yeah.
And if they would have never done any of that and completely ignored him and what he was doing, nobody would have ever believed that anything was going on out there.
Well,
But
that
he's
that that makes me wonder, if he's a psyop.
well,
Is he out there to put out disinformation or something?
okay. Well, look at it this way. He tells his story, and then there's Tickaboo Peak, right?
Yep.
Which was it was the closest mountain that
I
you
think, what
could
is it,
climb,
about 2 miles away or something?
something like that, where you could see down onto the Groom Lake, dry lake bed and see Area 51 off in the distance, right? So, Bob Lazar comes out with his story, and he takes John Lear out into the middle of the desert on a Wednesday night, and they see this craft rise up out from behind the mountains, glow, and then drop back down. And Bob's like, "That's it, that's it." And then they both started getting messed with. I
Mhm.
mean, first off, it's very possible that John could be, or that Bob Lazar could be a psyop. But the one thing is, he's never changed his story's never changed one bit.
Yeah.
Right? This all these years later, 35 years later, his story's never changed one bit, and they still continue to mess with the guy. If it's not true, then why are you messing with the guy? Just leave him alone. You know?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling just to think about, like
Right.
it's because it's easy to discredit someone like him,
Right.
but it's also totally believable everything that he's saying.
Right. And look, I know people that worked out there. And my and I'll say this, and I'm not going to get anybody in trouble for this, but my dad worked out at the test site, as a tow truck operator, and didn't never, he would just, because he worked out there, he would hear stories, and people would say, "Oh man, if you get a chance, if you don't have to, don't go over there. Weird stuff happens over there." And he never really, as far as I know, experienced anything weird, never really saw anything out there, but I would ask him, "Oh man, did you go to Area 51 today?" It's like, nah. To them, it wasn't Area 51. It was just Groom Lake. It was just part of the
Right.
test site. And there was never, like, he didn't ever come home and say, "Hey, I got to tell you this, but don't say anything." It was never anything like that.
Well, it's before
Right.
the internet and communication really was,
Right.
so prevalent, like
And
it was
that's why
just
we were buying books. And this was all, Bob Lazar was before I even started listening. I didn't start listening to Art Bell till like 95 or 96, maybe a little bit later than that. So I missed out, when Art first got into talking about this stuff with his Area 2000 show. I missed out on a lot of that. Unfortunately, now, there's so many recordings from Art Bell throughout almost his entire radio career. Once he switched over to Coast to Coast AM from like 92, late 92, moving forward, is documented. The majority of it's documented. Not every night, but the majority of it's documented, and you can go back and listen to it, and it's really nostalgic. I've made it at this point. I've listened to everything that's available from 92 through the April of 2000 when he retired, and that's when they thought he retired for good. I've listened to every show from 92 up to then that's readily out there and available. And now I'm working on getting everything organized so I can listen to everything else from that point until 2015 when he retired for the last time, because that's a goal, is to get through and listen to all those shows. But if it weren't for the X-Files, and it weren't for George Knapp, and it weren't for Bob Lazar, and it weren't for, Art Bell, I don't think I'd probably say that I wouldn't have been exposed to the majority of that stuff and really cared too much about it. But it just seemed like you were part of a club,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I love the next conspiracy like anybody. I don't go crazy overboard into it. And El Poopy was talking about dropping into a rabbit hole and making sure you can get yourself out. I get that. I dive into stuff because I'm like, wouldn't this be cool if it was true?
Huh?
Wouldn't this it would make me be able to laugh at a lot of people if this were true, and I enjoy stuff like that because I enjoy talking about things and listening to things and talking with people about things that normal everyday people pay no attention to.
Well, another aspect of that is it's like we're having a conversation about these things right now, and whether or not I agreed or disagreed with you, we're just having the conversation about
Right.
it. And you have to be open-minded enough to explore the possibilities of things. Like, we fight with a lot of people on X, just because they're so, I call them mental midgets. because they're so narrow minded that they can't even explore the possibility that they could be wrong about something. I don't claim that the earth is flat. I don't claim that the earth is a round or sphere. I have no fucking idea. That's what I claim is I don't know. But I'm open to either model, so I'm willing to look at all the information out there, and I'm kind of somewhere, in the middle. I kind of lean more this way than I do, but
Well,
that's just based on what's out there.
well, look, as far as the Earth is flat, do I think the Earth is flat? No. Do I think people think that? Do I think some people think the Earth is flat? Absolutely. Do I think they have valid reasons why it could be flat? Absolutely. I don't know what those reasons are because that's just not a topic I ever got into or ever talked to anybody
Sure.
about. I'm going to sit here and listen to you and go, okay, that makes sense, and I'm not going to, all of a sudden because I don't believe in it, going to sit there and completely start blowing up on you over it or calling you ass hat or whatever. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to listen to you and respect what you have to say because you don't have to sit here when I talk about, the face on Mars and the tunnels on Mars and the glass tubes and all this stuff and the structures on the moon,
That's
you
just
don't,
as crazy talk. you
right.
know?
And you don't have to believe it. Just sit here and listen to it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to listen to it if you don't want. It doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about it.
Right.
You don't have to believe that ghosts are real. I know for a fact they are. You
So
know,
let's get into that real quick because we got to wrap it up here pretty soon. But let's talk about the paranormal for a second. I want to know how you got into paranormal, and I also want to know you were talking about something recently. I can't remember if you were talking to me or if I saw it on one of your podcasts. You were talking about a place in Nevada up north, maybe the what is that haunted clown hotel or something.
oh, the
Um,
Goldfield Hotel.
and you
That
have to get
hotel.
special permissions to go in there, and
Well,
like it's
it's
pretty hard to do.
a Benjamin gets you in there. Let's say that.
Oh, Benjamin.
So so
Okay.
right. So we got into the ghosting. Like I always said, dude, I enjoy Halloween. I'm not one of those people that make crazy decorations or even dress up. Really, I'm like you know. But I enjoy spooky stuff, and I enjoy the a good ghost story like anybody. But Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson came out with Ghost Hunters. The first real show, paranormal show on TV, right? Ghost Hunters kind of paved the way, and then Zach and the boys. But I loved what they were doing because they were helping people. Like because it started out they would do locations, but then they did a lot of residential stuff too, right? So I really enjoyed that aspect. But I watched those shows not so much for the ghost part because I knew it's TV and it's got to be entertainment and uh, editing and stuff like that. It's not all 100%, right? Because uh, not all 100% real. But I would watch that stuff and I really enjoyed the locations and it became more so with Zach and the boys because they seem to get the cooler locations, right? And I really loved the locations. Maybe I was an urban explorer in a past life. I don't know, but I really love these abandoned locations and it's just really cool to think, oh man, these three guys get to do what they love and travel all over the world walking through these creepy places. That's awesome, you know.
So what? Then you started buying equipment and getting into it. Like what?
Well, it started with an audio recorder, a video camera, and a flashlight. Literally, that's what it started with. An
Okay.
audio record, and I have all the equipment sitting behind me in tubs. And lately, some friends of mine who are also paranormal investigators donated to me a bunch of equipment, an SLS and an XLS camera. So I've got two giant tubs full of ghost hunting gear, and they started giving me their stuff even after I said, I'm paring my stuff down. I'm not going to haul all
Hey,
this stuff around. Then they
it's
give me more.
it's nice to have friends, huh?
Right. Right. Nothing like having friends that give you about $900 worth of equipment for free because they don't want to haul it around after I tell them I don't want to haul stuff around. But so I started out with that, and we had always, as a friend of mine, So I'm looking, I'm like, I don't even know how to start a group. I don't even know if people do this. And I'd found somebody, this was before Facebook, bro. This was like MySpace, you
No
know,
shit, the
and
old days.
right, MySpace and Meetup.
So weird to say,
Right.
you know.
So I'm looking and I see this guy post on Meetup, and he's like, I'm looking for group members. So I go over and meet this guy at his house and we bullshit for like an hour, myself and a couple other people. Then we go walking through a cemetery. And then I never talk to this guy again. He just kind of disappears. So I'm looking on Meetup and I see this other thing. Desert Paranormal Research is looking for people who are into the paranormal and would like to investigate. We're looking to add team members. We're meeting at Denny's at 10 a.m. on Cheyenne and I-15. Good part of town, right?
Yeah, Northtown.
So I go there and I walk in and there's like
Isn't that by right by where Robert Bigelow has his warehouse?
his place is on like Martin Luther King and right before in between Cheyenne and Owens.
For those that don't know who Robert Bigelow is, what did he find, like the Super 8 motels? Is that what
No,
how he became famous?
he's
And
a
then
guy that
then
owns
he did Bigelow Aerospace and bought the Skinwalker Ranch,
which he
right?
later sold. Yeah.
Yeah, he sold it.
He owned Mount Wilson Ranch, which was a hotspot for UFO activity. I've investigated there. He bought Skinwalker Ranch and then sold it, but he owned it during the time all the crazy stories happened
Yeah.
out there. Not any of the TV stuff that you see now, but
If
all
I'm
the
not
like, the
mistaken,
original.
if I'm not mistaken, he did start the Super 8 motel chain, or he owned it, or something at some point, I believe.
I don't know if he's the guy that was in charge of leaving the light on for you or not. I don't know. But anyways, so I show up and there's like 25 people at this table and I sit down, just listening, eating my pancakes and meet all these friends. And I meet this guy, Robert, and his wife. And they're starting the team with one of Robert's buddies and they're paramedics. So I start doing little investigations with them out around cemeteries outside of town and stuff. And we get Rob was like really gung ho and he just really knew how to make people at ease. And he gets this residential investigation. We show up to this residential investigation. There's like 25 of us. So we split off into teams. Like, all right, we're going to send, we're going to send 6 people in. Everybody else stays in the garage. So I'm sitting there in the garage. It's later on. It's like an 8-hour investigation, bro. I'm getting tired and I'm kind of, I can see what's going on the screen and I can vaguely hear what's going on in the house because we had a little DVR set up and I'm watching it and the lights in the garage flicker out and then come back on. And so I get on the walkie talkie. Hey, I just want to let you guys know the lights just flickered in the garage. So just be, something. And I didn't know that like, they were having something going on in the house and this energy's building in the house and it's getting thick in the house and lights go off in the garage, come back on. And then like 5 seconds later, I hear the scream, oh my God. And everybody in the house freaks out. And one of the guys standing, and I didn't know at the time, but my buddy Mike was standing there and he's like, I'm stuck to the floor. I'm rooted. And there's like electricity. There's like this heaviness holding my feet to the floor. And then when Maury screamed, he said he felt this blast of electricity shoot through his body. And I don't know if it was just because he was startled or he actually felt that. But she said she claimed she saw this big black shadow, and she was a little more sensitive, saw this big black shadow kind of like a bear hover over him. And that's when she screamed. And that was literally like 5, 10, 15 seconds after the lights went out in the garage. So we all chalked it up to, there was never any lights flickering in the garage or anything like that happening right, at all night long, nothing. And then right before that, so we figured maybe whatever was there had used that energy to build up to a certain point to do something. So I don't ever remember seeing anything that night. I remember at one point walking into the house from the garage and it just felt really thick, like almost like I was kind of walking through a foot of water. Like it just felt kind of thick. And so, that was the first investigation. And then we would do the Amargosa Opera House a bunch of times, and I saw a couple things out there. Well, I saw one thing out there, but then experienced a couple other things that was pretty wild out there. One of the things was Rob and I were standing down the hallway. We're looking down the other end of the hallway. There's open doors because it's this place called Spooky Hollow back there, which is like the kind
Okay,
of the
Spooky Hollow. I've heard of
yeah
that.
the abandoned part of the hotel. It wasn't kept up on or anything like that. It's just where all the workers used to work or used to live out there. And I saw down at the end of the hallway, there's this room on the left hand side if you're facing down the hallway, and that room's where the big boss man. That was his room where he
The
liked to stay.
wrestler?
No, but this was
Just
like
kidding.
the angry spirit there, like the spirit that was in charge, right? And you would know he was around because instantly you would get this strong smell of cat piss,
Ooh.
and it would go away, like it would just like overwhelm you, like eyes burning, and then immediately it would be gone. Not like you got used to it or anything, but it would be gone. So Rob and I are standing there, and we watch this. I see this dog come out of the boss man's room and walk across the hallway into the room on the other side of the hallway. So I take off running down the hallway, and I get down there and I'm looking, and the only way out of this area would have been back past where Rob and I were standing. Like we were blocking the exit. And so Rob comes down and he's like, "Are you looking for that dog?" I'm like, "You saw it too?" There was nothing down there, bro. No way for anything to get out. There was nothing there. The dog was gone. So we
So
we
what? So what? Like, what do you chalk that up to? What do you think it was?
I you know I don't know. I mean, there's theories that they can come back and be anything they want. You can
Sure.
appear as anything. A lot of times people think that they'll see like an owl or a bird or whatever. I mean, I don't know. It could have been the ghost of a dog, but I'd never heard any stories of a ghost of a dog being there. So
Hmm.
I don't know, man. But that, I had believed before that, but that kind of cemented a lot of things to me. And I don't do paranormal investigations a lot because I always thought that I didn't really ever have experiences because I always felt that I spent more time messing around trying to get equipment dialed in rather than just investigating. And I don't push it too hard. Rob left me with Desert Paranormal Research, which I still have. That I got a Facebook page. I'm on X. I don't really post too much on it. Would I love to be one of those groups that, always has residential investigations? I'm always out investigating. Sure, it's, when you do something like that, you know, you got to really love doing it because obviously you're not doing it to make money and you should never charge people to do it. And when you get
It
into,
costs money, like you said. You got to throw them a C note.
well, yeah, I mean, but with the Goldfield Hotel, we'd been wanting to get into that since 2008, and we finally, through my friends who gave me all this equipment, we finally, Cynthia and I were able to get in there with them. And that
And
is,
you got a video of it on Rumble, right?
yeah, there's a video of it on Rumble. So if you look on Rumble under Desert Paranormal Research, you're going to see a video on there. And it's the one I compiled all the evidence. It's like 5.5 minutes long. And I really didn't even realize that I'd gotten any other evidence throughout the night, because nothing really stuck out to me until I watched the video back. And then I heard things, that I considered, they weren't just a coincidence. Like my friends were using it's an app, and I don't like apps too much, like on a phone or something like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
that
put a
seems
lot of,
that seems weird. It seems like there would be too much interference, too much.
well, it's not that. I just, because I'm a skeptic, I don't trust them. That's not to say that I haven't had experiences with them where I can't explain it. Like it has to be what I want it to be, which is paranormal. I can't explain it any other way, but that's 5% of the time. The other 95% of the time is bullshit. And I'm thinking I may go live tonight. I may hook up one of my ghost boxes and go live and do a live stream. Maybe see if I can do it on Desert Paranormal Research or something. I may do it on my podcast and sit here for an hour and try to, use my ghost box and see if I can get any responses. But that's a whole other thing. But at Goldfield, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go up. There's 4 floors, right, and a basement. I'm gonna go up to the 4th floor. I've heard the 4th floor is the most active. I'm going up to the 4th floor by myself, dude. I didn't even make it up to the 2nd floor, which is before I'm walking up, and I got my little ghost box going. I got my video camera, and I wish we could show the clip. I don't know if you can share screen, but I should have sent it to you so you could show it. I'm walking up the stairs, and my ghost box is going in the background. I got my video camera, and I'm walking up, and I make it around the corner, and I'm about 4 steps from the top of the stairs to the next floor, and my ghost box goes, wait.
Oh shit.
So I stop, and as soon as I stop, my footsteps stop, but you hear 3 or 4 footsteps coming towards me, and then you hear me go, whoa, and I turn around and did this thing you should never do, ran away from it, right?
Why did they say don't run away from it?
No. It said wait, and then I heard the footsteps running towards me, and it startled me.
Right, and then but then
And
you
then
said
I
you
turned around and ran like a puss.
What? But you said
Right?
they say don't do that, right? You're not
No,
supposed to do that.
no. They were running this way. I'm staring at the landing, looking up, and they're coming from this direction where I can't see. So I turn around and run down because all the floors are wood. So you can hear the footsteps, right? 3 or 4 footsteps. I turn around, I run back downstairs. I get back downstairs, and I'm freaking out, right? Like, oh my God. I'm startled. Then the damn ghost box says, ghost step.
Is that
And I
is that a
completely
new kind
forgot.
of music? What is that?
No, it's right. It's, because there's no radio stations there.
Right.
So it's just going, as it's cycling through the radio station, and it says ghost step, 2 words. And I'm like, I didn't realize that it had said that. I didn't even acknowledge because I wasn't even paying attention to it at that point. I was just like so completely blown away that had just happened to me because nothing like that had ever happened to me before.
Wow.
So
Man, if you could find the clip of that, maybe I can edit it into, the part of the podcast
yeah,
here.
I'll send you the raw clip and you can edit.
Yeah.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
Yeah. I'll find the long clip and either send you a link or something. I'll have to dig it out. I have it, but for the rest of the night, I didn't pay attention to anything. But when I was watching the footage, there was one part we're on like the 3rd or 4th floor, and I'm walking around, and I had switched to my iPhone camera because I just got so sick and tired of carrying around my big camera. So I had a red headlamp on, and I'm walking around with my iPhone, and I'm getting really like the iPhone camera is just amazing. I wish I could make it IR, or full spectrum, but it's just an awesome camera. So I'm walking around, and I'm just like walking around, and I turned around to walk back towards my camera on a tripod and where everybody else is, and I turned around and I said, "Hey, they're kind of off clear at the other end of the hallway, so they can't really see me that well." And I'm like, "Hey, it's just me. I'm walking back." And her app on her iPad says Charles, which is my name. And I didn't even know that it had said that until I watched the footage back. Bless you. So I didn't even notice that until I watched the
Thank you.
footage back. And that's when I was watching, 4 hours of footage going, because that's the worst part is watching. I have stuff that I've never watched. I might have evidence that I've never listened to.
Probably.
It's very possible. But, man, I felt that place, it wasn't as active as I was hoping it would be because it's such, it's been hyped up for all these years. But we did get activity that night, and I definitely want to go back. But, I just really wish I could figure out a way to make it happen to where, I could get in there at like 6 at night and stay in there all night until the next morning and really, get whatever's there used to us being there.
Yeah. Maybe you got to slip them 2 C notes.
Yeah, the Benny twins, right? I don't know, man, but we were there for like 4.5 hours, which is a long time.
Yeah, that's a good amount.
And I mean, we even like towards the end, we went outside for like 45 minutes and just left the stuff running inside, and we didn't get anything during that time. But it was just you kind of get burned out on it after a while when you feel that there's really nothing going on because when
It's
you're
like I feel like it's like hunting. It's like you sit around and wait a long time to get that shot. You know what I mean?
right, and that shot may never happen.
Right.
And that's the thing when you're doing this and you're out there doing paranormal investigations, there just comes a time when you feel, all right, dude, it's quiet, everything's done. There's nothing going on.
Right.
And I mean, we've done investigations to this. There's a cemetery outside of Vegas that we go to once a year. And lately we haven't, last 4 or 5 times that we've gone there, we haven't really gotten anything. And we used to get stuff out of there. But we like the place and it's easy to get to and we can go there in the middle of the night. So we go out there, and you just go out there and then after an hour you're like, "Oh, it's kind of quiet. There's nothing going on here." And so you leave. But when you go to certain places and there's something going on, you can feel there's something going on. And then,
Sure.
You're there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then all of a sudden it just feels peaceful and you just realize, it's quiet now. There's nothing going on now. But I'd like to, you see those TV shows like Nick Groff did where he and Katrina were locked in a place for like 3 days. And that interests me to be locked in a place like that for 3 or 4 days. And like it's not the paranormal thing that interests me about it. It's like the social experiment. Like, how does it change? Does your mind start playing tricks on you because you're kind of isolated from everything else? How does that work? And I've got a buddy of mine, Jeremy Leonard. He was on a Netflix show called 28 Days, 28 Days Haunted or something like that. And he and another investigator were locked in a place for 28 days. And it affected him. Like there was something affecting him, pretty dark affecting him while he was there. He ended up having a heart attack. I mean, back then he wasn't the healthiest guy either, but he ended up having a heart attack. And I was going to do a show with him on my podcast a couple weeks back, and he's a firefighter. And right before we do to go live, like 10 minutes, he's like, "Man, I just got an emergency call, dude. I'm going to have to postpone." So I went on live with the show anyways, because we were going to talk about investigating the paranormal. Is it worth the risk? And my buddy Kelly Elkins came on, who I've been investigating with for years. I consider him my, brother. And he came on and talked for 2.5 hours, and we talked about that stuff. And
I think I heard part of that episode.
yeah, it's easy to talk about stuff like that, especially when it's your friend and you've gone through stuff together.
Well,
It's
you know what?
easy.
That's what's made this podcast so nice is because you're my friend, man. It's just like the time has just flown by, like
Right, dude,
uh,
it usually does. It
it's just
usually
because I
does.
don't want the conversation to end, 'cause I'm enjoying talking to you so much. I'm
Right.
like, fuck.
Well, that's why you just do a part two somewhere down the road. But
Well, you know
you know,
what? That's a nice thing is that we do a lot of bonus content through
right.
our Substack page, which is phoneboothpodcast.substack.com. And there's 4 podcasts on there. Plus, we all do bonus content too. So I mean, it's pretty cool, what we got going on with our pages.
Right.
But
And I got to tell you that, dude, is I'm very, when it comes to my Earmob podcast, a lot of times I find it hard to get inspired to do it just because I really want to talk about things that I want to talk about. And I know that there's things that I could talk about. And it's just, I, I just have this weird thing sometimes about getting on and just doing it by myself. And I've done it before and it's worked out fine. I just don't know why I'm such a head case over it. But
Well, you know what,
and
dude? I want to get you on the phone booth with Ted and Vince, because I think you guys would have such a great conversation. And like, it's such a good platform because there's so many people that listen to it and will be into some of the stuff that you do on your podcast and talk about,
right,
with the paranormal and the alien stuff and, just conspiracy in general.
right. Yeah, cuz I mean, Ted, you guys seem like I said, you're very much like a band that you guys get along great and you all complement each other. And I sit and watch it. I'm like, man, that sounds like that would just be a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon. It's just bullshitting with your buddies, and you guys sit there and go on for like 3.5, 4 hours, and it just blows my mind. And
It's
it's
tough,
something
man.
that,
It's tough,
right?
man.
Oh,
Like,
well, it's just tough to sit there and do it. That
when you
looking
get
at
to
it,
that fourth hour, man, it's tough.
dude. It was a buddy of mine, and we've been friends since I was in high school, and he's older, but we're both big Led Zeppelin fans, and I had him come on, and he was just talking about being a Zeppelin fan and seeing Zeppelin back in the '70s a couple times, and we're talking, and next thing you know, I look down, it's like 3.5 hours. I'm like, holy shoot, that's a long time, and this is before we didn't do video, we just did audio, and I don't know if I have that up. I want to do another one with him, but I don't know if he'll do video. But yeah, it was just a blast, and I found that talking to friends is a lot easier, And I've got plenty of friends. I just don't know how many of my friends people would find interesting.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it,
luckily for you and even for me is that we know a lot of interesting people. I mean,
right,
we really do.
right.
And I'm hoping your buddy Gene Reeves comes on the podcast or at least replies to my message that I sent him, motherfucker. Because I
Yeah,
would
dude,
I would
I
love
love
to
you
sit down
guys.
and talk to Gene, man, because it's been so many years, and
Dude, he's too busy changing diapers, bro.
yeah, well, that's what
But
happens. That's what happens when you're sexy.
yeah, but at this point in his age, he's changing his.
Yeah, right.
There you go,
Getting
Gene.
close to
You're
it.
gonna be
Getting
calling
close
me
to
for
it.
that one. But yeah, man, you guys seemed to really kind of have a formula down on what you guys are doing. My plan was if I could just get the podcast to pay for the subscriptions that I would need to grow it, then I'd be fine. I just unfortunately can't spend the 60 to 80 bucks a month, if it's not going to make that and plus, if I figured if I had to pay that money, then it kind of forces me to do it. And I have paid some money in the past and I was cranking out a guest every week and everything like that. But it just, as soon as I'm good until as soon as a guest cancels. And then I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do now? And
Yeah.
then I start trying to put the podcast together. Like, I'll just do like a half hour. And I just, I haven't quite figured out exactly my formula on how comfortable, like what's a comfortable thing for me. But it usually ends up being, generally an hour like we were originally going to do, and now it's almost two. But it just generally, I figured, somebody could digest the whole episode as they're driving to work,
Yeah.
because
That's a
that's
that's
generally
a
when
long
people
ass
listen.
fucking drive to work, and I
Right.
feel sorry for that
We've
person.
all
What
done it,
what
dude.
are you live in L.A.? What the fuck?
Right. Well, dude, look at like Rogan. Rogan. I listened to an episode of his the other day, and I don't remember who it was, but it was like an hour and 45 minutes. And then I was going to listen to one the other day, and it was like 3 hours on the nose. But the thing with Rogan is it's so easy to listen to that guy talk because it always comes down to just like two dudes bullshitting. And I listened to Theo Vaughn's podcast for the first time today as he was talking to JD Vance, and I listened to some of it. And I don't think like his formula is kind of the same as Rogan's, just kind of very raw. But I don't know if it, and Theo hasn't been doing it as long as Rogan, but I just like how Rogan's flows,
Yeah.
right? Like there's no bullshit to it. It's just like an intro video or an intro, Joe Rogan podcast all day, all night, whatever. check it out. And then it's just him talking. Like you're almost like it's dropping into the middle of a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
And he doesn't really do like intros. It's just like, hey, I've got welcome to the thing. And, he doesn't really, hi, I'm Hulk Hogan and da da da. You know, he doesn't really do that. It's just very raw. And I think that's a cool thing. But as you know, when it comes to like doing video as well, you have to have some sort of production element to it. And I love the fact that you guys do on yours. I mean, you guys, because there's all four of you guys and throwing ideas back and forth together. You guys seem to have that. I admire you guys for that. Because mine is just very, very plain. There's nothing to it because I can't afford to pay for it.
Well, it's funny, and I really appreciate everything that you just said, because um like I feel like I'm the simpler person, like you're doing it. Like that's kind of how I want it.
Right.
Simple. I don't
Right.
want too much production. Like I think keep it simple and stick to the conversation. And it's funny because like when I prepare to talk to someone, I feel like it goes worse. But if I just don't really like today, I didn't even plan on recording with you today. I thought we were going to do it in a couple of days on Thursday.
Right.
But I was like, fuck it, let's just do it tonight. And it
Right.
was just like kind of just shooting from the hip. And I guess I felt comfortable with you because, I've known you so long. So it would be an easy conversation. But it flows easier when you don't really have like talking points that you're trying to hit all the time. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think there's nothing wrong with that because I've listened back to some of the episodes I've done in the past and I'm just sitting there wincing the whole time like, shit. That could have been so much better. And there's other because when I listen back to those, I don't feel like I was able to get to everything I wanted to talk about. But those were more like conversations where we got into stuff that had nothing to do with why I was bringing them on to begin with. And I found that fascinating and I appreciated that as well. Like my friend Wayne Tuttle, and he's the guy, he was on the show Legend of the Superstition Mountains.
Oh yeah, that's out near
And they
me.
only did one episode or one season. And he has his Legends of the Superstition Mountains YouTube channel and he does videos like a couple times a week. And he's such a nice guy to talk to, and I'm like, man, I want to hear about the Superstition Mountains. And I had him on when I was just doing audio first. And it was a 3-hour episode. And we talked, it was like 15% Superstition Mountains. And then we got into all these other areas that I never intended to get into. And I found it was fascinating. And I was learning stuff, not just kind of rehashing stuff I'd seen on TV. And then I did a video one with him and got into completely different things.
Yeah.
And same with my buddy Mark Marcel, who's a big Bigfoot, Ape Canyon, on Mount St. Helens. He's got that whole story locked down. And he's like this beatnik hippie type of guy. But, very, very like when you hear, okay, there's a beatnik guy that lives up in the Pacific Northwest, you picture a certain type of guy. That's kind of Mark, but he's such a cool fucking dude. And he's such a nice guy, and I'd never met him before. I saw him on Expedition X with Josh Gates, so I find him on Facebook, and I text him or send him a message. I'm like, hey, Mark, saw you on Expedition X. I have this little podcast that I do, nothing crazy. Dude, would you consider coming on and talking to me for an hour? 3 hours later, bro. 3 hours later, we talked for 3 hours, and it was just awesome because we were into the podcast an hour before we even got into Ape Canyon.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about all kinds of other stuff. And that's what I like about not having a list of talking points because you get into other things that nobody would ever associate that person with.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to know that person outside of just, I saw you for 5 minutes on Expedition X with Josh Gates. You get into other things, right? And that's what I like about that. But the drawback is you don't get into things that you wanted to get into that you thought people would want to hear.
Well, you know what's a shame? Like the first episode I did with Ted on the phone booth, it was just me and him, and we were totally supposed to talk about like currencies and how money and stuff it
Right.
was going, and all this gold that had been lost and found in the world, and I mean we've talked maybe about fucking 10 minutes I think,
Right.
about it, and I felt so bad. I'm like, man, we need to do some more about it, because it was like I had all this shit to talk about and all this information, but we just were having such a great conversation talking about things, and it was just in a flow. Like it was hard to get to to what we are supposed to talk about.
Right.
But
And I, like I said, there's good and bad to that. Like, if you don't have a list of bullet points, you don't get to everything. But without that list of bullet points, you get into things that you would never intend to get into. And that's kind of what bums me out with doing the podcast, and the fact that there's so many out there, which I appreciate. But because it's such a large pond and I'm such a small fish, like I'm a minnow, like I'm a tadpole in that pond, right? I'm a little swimmer in that pond. That people will probably, 99% chance people are never going to hear my podcast and hear
but
these other
but but
aspects
but
of.
dude, you know what though? I know what you're saying. Like, I never thought as many people were going to hear my podcast, but I'm blown away by how many people share my podcast and have
Right,
tuned in and listened to it and comments on it and have
right,
been so supportive. I mean, it's been unbelievable. Like, I can't believe, it's just finding that school of fish to swim with,
right.
you
and
know?
and and that's because I've got people going, dude, you should just stick to music, because there's so many paranormal podcasts, and there are, dude. I could have uh Jeremy Leonard on again, when we finally reschedule that. And then a week later, he's on 3 other podcasts. Or I had Lyle Blackburn on, and Lyle's fucking awesome. If you ever check out his band Ghoul Town, check out, dude, the band is just it's a perfect mashup of different things, and it works, and it's cool, dude. But it there's so many podcasts out there that you kind of go, all right, I need to pick one direction and go,
Yeah. Well,
because I don't know.
that was kind of my problem, is not really having a lane, and I'm still kind of in that thing right now, because I kind of want to talk about everything.
Right,
I don't want to pigeonhole myself or put myself in a box.
right. And that's the Rogan mentality, because he doesn't just talk about one thing. I mean, I love the fact that, I'm not a MMA guy, but he has MMA fighters on it, and it's not really my bag, so I never really listen to those episodes. But he'll have somebody on talking about what's really going on in the Middle East. And that fascinates me, to hear about the crazy shit that goes on over there that's not how they portray it on TV
Hmm.
or portrayed in American media.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the next week he'll have, somebody on talking about how bad, the COVID jabs were
right,
for you. And then the next week he has Ron White
yeah,
on, and everybody
right,
loves
and
Ron White.
right, and then the next week he's got a quantum physics guy on talking
Yeah,
about shit that'll break your brain. You're like, what the
right.
fuck?
And I love that, because I may not be in
Speaking
it.
of break your brain episodes of Joe Rogan, everybody should check out Amit Goswami's episode of the Joe Rogan.
Oh,
Like,
I
that
don't know who
shit
that
will
is.
just like yeah, like I sometimes I just listen to it to fall asleep to it, just so it falls into my subconscious, so I feel a little smarter.
Right,
But
right.
it's not working very well though, I'll
Yeah.
tell you that much.
It's a good episode when you wake up tired and you're like, fuck, it's working overtime. But that's what I appreciate about that, because no matter, like, if Joe Rogan just talked to MMA fighters, I would never listen to his
Sure.
podcast
Right.
ever. Like, it just wouldn't even be on my right. And there's so many paranormal podcasts out there that I don't listen to. Like, it's just like, to me, it's just like the same bullshit over and over and over again. So that's why I do like that every once in a while I can have a musician on. Like I had Esposito on, and it was just me talking to my buddy. And I was asking him questions as a fan of Lynch Mob and as a fan of him. But at the end of the day, we're friends.
I
You
want to
know,
watch that episode because I have no idea what's going on with that guy these days. Like
yeah.
I'm curious,
Well, he's still in Red Dragon Cartel with Jakey,
Oh shit. Okay.
but I
Is
don't
he?
know if they're working on music or what.
Does
You
that
know?
girl Tasha doesn't play drums for them still, does she?
No, I don't know. I don't know who plays drums now because I think that other dude retired. And I was bummed because I'm like, man, I just want to go on stage every night and play live wire or live whatever. Fuck, dude, I'm such a Badlands fan. I can't uh, live wire, baby. Yeah, I love I'm like, can we just go on stage and play those Badlands records over and over and over again? But or high wire.
High Wire.
That's what it is. I always say live wire, then I'm like, nope,
Because
that's the
that's the
Motley Crue
Motley
song.
Crue,
It's
yeah.
not. I don't want to play live wire. I want to play high wire.
Yeah.
And so that's the deal, man. I think you should be able to just talk about whatever you want to talk about. And I really I will honestly talk to anybody, dude. Like I really don't care because it's Art Bell had it back in the day that he's not telling you the story's real or fake. He's just giving you the opportunity to hear it and you decide.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like I had a guy on who claims that aliens manipulate his artwork and that they left him food and something to do with shit and sperm. It was the most random thing, dude. You have to go back and listen to it. His name's Richard McGill, and I like the guy. I thought he was
That's true. I
great.
want to. Despite my name, I'm not into shit.
Right, like I really liked the guy. His story was far-fetched, but I really liked the guy. I thought it was a great story. And I come right and I even at one point I'm like, "Bro, you're talking about shit. They're manipulating your shit and your sperm. What's going, are you using these bodily fluids for artwork?" And apparently kind of, yes, I think. But that, it was just and I found the guy on Twitter. And I'm just like, "Hey, dude, you want to do a podcast?" Because I was like, man, I
Like,
don't
hey,
have
you're into
much this
shit and
week.
semen. You want to do a podcast?
Right. Like I didn't have anybody that week. Or then I turn around and I'm sitting here going, man, I just had a guy on my podcast talking about aliens messing with his shit. But then this next week, I'm going to start my video podcast and I'm going to have the drummer from Vane, Tommy Rickard. And Tommy, I'm like, fuck, I love the band from back in the late 80s. I own all the shit. I love the band. I think they're great. And I sent him an email because we were friends on Facebook. We never talked, right? Just one of those things. You got a million friends that are just friends on there that you never talk to. They're just a name on your list. So I reach out to him. I'm like, hey, dude, I just started this video podcast. Would you come on? He's like, I said, would you come on and talk drums? He's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. So I get him on the podcast and we just start talking. And then come to find out we're both ginormous fans of Jellyfish. And if you've never checked out Jellyfish, check out Jellyfish.
Is that like a jam
It'll change
band
your
or
life.
something?
No, dude, pop band, like bubblegum pop band, late 80s, early 90s, 2 records, and they're one of those bands, they're like King's X, where if you talk to a musician, like a real musician, rock musician or whatever, and you say, what band should have been huge but wasn't? And they're going to give you, guaranteed, if you tell them, name me 5 bands, I guarantee one of those bands is going to be King's X.
Okay.
And the other band is going to be Jellyfish.
Well, I don't.
King's X is more known because they've stayed in the game. Jellyfish only released 2 records.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know much of King's X's music, but I do know that the guy from King's X did stuff with your boy George Lynch,
right?
KXM, and they had on drums the fucking amazing Ray Luzier,
right?
Who's one of my favorite drummers. I mean,
right.
That dude's fucking incredible.
Right. But that's the thing. If you talk to somebody, they're going to say it's going to be King's X and Jellyfish, right?
I don't know why I've
And
never really got into either one of those bands. I really
you've got to,
need to go to the library and do some research.
right. And Jellyfish, when I first heard it, I didn't really get like when I first heard it, it sounded like mid 70s pop, which is exactly what it was supposed to sound like. Like and I didn't get it. Like I bought the cassette and the cassette was pink. Like I didn't get it. Like I just didn't know what to do with it. Like I had like my dear friend Sharon turned me on to him and I didn't know what to do with it. I bought it and I didn't really know how to digest it.
Right.
And so I put it away for a couple years and then started listening to it again and my head exploded. Like I can listen to it over and over and over and over again till I die and I'll never get sick of it. You
So
know?
I probably shouldn't admit this on the air, but I will. Do you know who Chad Stewart is, the drummer?
Uh
He
no.
he played well, and right now he plays for Faster Pussycat. Um, but he also plays in Moto Christ, which is his band, and so I want to have him on the podcast, and I can probably make that happen. But I'll tell you something. he- those early Moto Christ records, like in the early 2000s, were so fucking good. Like, and I kind of listened to them back then, and then put them on the shelf, like you just said. And
Right.
then I've been listening to them for the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, holy shit, that is some good fucking music that they were putting out. But I want to talk to him about it, you know.
Right.
So I can't wait, to hopefully set that up. And even like I'm talking to Kerry Kelly pretty soon.
Right.
And he had a band called Dad's Porno Mag back in
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
late
yeah.
90s.
They used
And
to play at Pinky's all the time.
yeah, and fucking A, man, like that I think they only have the one CD, or maybe they had another EP too or something, but man, that fucking CD kicks ass. I'm like, damn.
You know, it's funny and I don't know if anybody will ever see this that really cares at this aspect, but I got a call about doing a gig where it could potentially be uh, playing with like the singer from Steelheart and the singer from Tough and
Oh, that dude's a badass.
right. Oh, I know he's a badass. You know,
Milzenko
stand up and
something.
shout and you know all the Marky Wahlberg stuff. You know, and
The movie
I
Rockstar.
right and
But then he also sang for Steelheart, and they had that hit, I'll
I'll
never
never
let
let
you
you go.
go. Oh
Angel
my god,
Eyes.
that
Right.
angel, yeah, that song is so
Right.
beautiful and amazing. Holy cow.
So my buddy says, you know, you may have to play some songs. You may have to learn some tough songs. I'm like, name one. And I'm not taking anything away from them. They were just never a band that I listened to. You know, like if he said, I need you, you may have to play four uh, Bullet Boy songs. I'm like, oh, dude, I got you covered from memory because I've heard them so many times, you know?
Yeah.
But he said tough. And I'm like, bro, name one. I don't know any like I couldn't even if they had a single, dude, I don't know it, and
It was a
I
ballad.
apologize.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was a ballad. I'm trying to think
Yeah,
of
I
it.
have
It's on
no
the tip of
idea.
my tongue. But
No
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, they were one of those bands that, just, wrong time, you
Right.
know.
Right. And that was, you know, I talked to Tommy from Vane
But
and
you know what? I'll tell you what. The singer from Tough, Stevie Rochelle, I feel like he's had a lot more success after the band. With what he's done since then. He founded metalsludge.com
right.
and has made a fucking great living. And the
Right.
Tough still makes a good dollar,
Sure.
touring and
Sure. And I'm
so
not taking anything away from anybody. Bro, you did it longer than, you know, you
but
did it
fuck him
longer than I
because
did.
he's a Green Bay Packer fan.
I don't know, dude. I don't follow sports. So you guys were talking smack today, and I joked around. I said I didn't even realize Phoenix still had a team.
Yeah, that's funny.
And like I don't
Did, did
follow
you
sports at all.
did you know
So
I was a ball boy for that team, the
yeah, yeah.
Phoenix Suns?
We've
Yeah.
discussed that before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think we talked about it on
Right.
your podcast, the Earmob podcast,
Oh
which
yeah.
everybody needs to go follow Chas Stumbo. He's on every platform. Just look up Earmob podcast.
Yeah, it's
And
simple. It's just X and Rumble and YouTube and Facebook. It's all at Earmob Podcast. I try to make it as simple as possible. Um, Rumble's kind of, I love Rumble because you can see that how much money you're making immediately. Where YouTube, you have to have certain length and you have to have 1,000 subscribers, and I mean, I can't even fathom having that at this juncture. But it's just a part of just getting on a regular schedule, and I think just getting more comfortable with doing stuff on my own. And dude, I got to tell you, the fact that you guys took voicemails and then you took that call from that dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the other week. I love that, dude. I love the fact that, I mean, because you guys are joking around and you're calling that dude out for,
Well, I felt
but
bad
I thought
because he
that was
was.
great.
I thought he was coming at me. Like I thought he called me a bitch in the comments, so I fucking went at him.
Right,
Like I'm a mellow dude, and it takes a lot to get to me. But I don't know. It was just something about that comment really triggered me. I think, dude. And I was
right,
like, "What, bitch? What?"
right.
and then he called in, and you know, that was
Well,
a funny time on the street.
right. Like, dude, when COVID hit, and we all got those paychecks, I'm looking at my wife and I'm like, I want to do a podcast. So my wife, dude, God bless her, goes out and I can't turn my camera, but if some people might know, my wife goes out and buys me a Rodecaster. And it's basically, I've got 4 mic inputs, I've got other inputs for a phone, it's got Bluetooth on it, I got my little
Come on, man.
sound effects pads, you know, and I can take phone calls,
Yeah.
right? I can tie that directly in, like my phone. Remember, it rang when we first started. My phone is Bluetoothed to it. So I could take phone calls, but I don't want to give people my home phone number, right? My cell phone number.
I'll
But I
tell you
know
how
you can
to.
do Google. I know you can
I'll
do
set
Google,
you up. Yeah.
right? But dude, if I can get to the point where I'm going live and people are watching, it's great to do comments and stuff, but I would love to take phone calls. Even just, I don't want people talking about, pulling those Baba Booey phone calls. I don't need that shit. I guess if 5 of us are online and we're bullshitting and somebody calls and goes, Baba Booey, then it's funny, you know? But, if I've got somebody on, I'm talking and we're just bullshitting about whatever, and you want to call and ask a question about, hey, when you had your experience and your abductions, blah, 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 blah. If it's a good, legitimate, I think that would be cool to be able to take phone calls because I don't see a lot of podcasts doing it. And maybe
Yeah.
I'm just not listening to the right podcast,
Well,
but
no, I mean
I think it would be
I
cool.
think they're few and far between. I've seen a few that do, but they're few and far between. You don't
Right,
see them too often. But what's cool about it is we try to get the people to throw us a topic to talk about. And
right,
and then if they want to scream at us or tell us how stupid we are, we'll play that shit too. We're not hiding it.
right,
You want to talk shit to us, because they talk about a lot of controversial stuff on that podcast.
right.
um so there's a lot of haters out there. They're these keyboard warriors,
Well, of
and it's like
course.
we try to give them as much of a platform as we can you
Right,
know
but I
but
think because you have 4 guys on there, you're one of 4 or 5, and you guys do talk about a lot of stuff, but you convey it in a way that makes it kind of fun and loose, and you guys are laughing and having a good time. I mean, people pick up on that because it's kind of like, all
yeah.
right, what are these guys going to do next? And I mean, I know, Ted's big into the conspiracies and stuff like that, and so I know, you get those people as well, but you guys are talking about it in a certain way that you're not getting like the serious people,
Yeah.
like that
It's
like
it's it's been a lot of fun, man. Just
right.
connecting with these guys and
Right.
building this stuff. It's fun.
Right. Well, and it's easier for you guys to build it because you also have 4 guys working towards it too, So I think when it comes to doing something like this where it's just you doing your own, I mean, you got those guys backing it and you've got that network of, resources there too, but when you're doing it by yourself, and you're sitting there and you almost become like, I got to hand it to people that do the podcast by themselves and they're switching between screens and they're doing all this stuff and it looks effortless. You've really got to take the time to learn it. And
I'll tell you what. I'm trying to put something together right now, doing like a little daily thing. Like 10 or 15 minutes, just like a morning bowel movement type thing.
right,
And I'll just put
right.
it out there, and just to have some fun. But it is tough to figure out. It's tough to just ramble for 15 minutes.
I mean, I've done it, and it is tough, but it's such a mind thing because I recently I did one a while back. I had booked a guest on the Earmob podcast. It was like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I had booked it when I first got like I had my alien backdrop, and I have my lights and everything, which I have with me. I just don't have anywhere to set them up. But um, this guy, I had booked him, and he has a drumming channel on YouTube, and I won't name him, not that anybody. So, anyways, I booked him, and everything was good because we were going to get on and talk John Bonham and talk drums, right? Well, a week before, or not even a week, dude, like 3 days before, 2 days before the podcast, he sends me an email, says, "Hey, I'm good to go." I'm like, "All right." The day of the podcast, I send him an email and say, "All right, dude, I'm going to send you a link when I get home from work." He sends me back. He's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm gonna have to bow out." He's like, "Trump's a deal breaker for me,"
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember
and
talking to you about this. Oh,
it just blew my mind because I never said we were going to get into politics. Which, if I ever talk politics on my podcast, it's not on purpose unless I say, "Hey, we're talking this," which I've never done. My guests and I will get into it because they'll bring it up, and in a roundabout way, and we'll get into it. And it's perfectly fine because I'll listen to what anybody has to say. It doesn't bother me, right? Oh, letting the dog in.
yeah.
I'll listen to what
Come on.
anybody I'll listen to what anybody has to say, even if I don't agree with it. I'm not gonna like rag on you. Everybody has a right to say whatever they want to say. It doesn't bother me that way. You know, Secretly I may be laughing at you on the inside, but I'm not gonna, you know, like start a war with you online. It's just don't come at me and I won't come at you and we'll discuss it. That's how it works. Well,
Right.
this guy said it's a deal breaker for me. So it pissed me off so goddamn bad that I just went and I basically raped libs of TikTok's Twitter feed and pulled a bunch of videos of liberals just freaking out, like the ones that are like crying and crying in their cars and just screaming and saliva is dripping out of their mouths and they're just so absolutely losing their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on and I played those clips and I talked about them and I told stories about how, things I've dealt with because I'm a Trump supporter and some people, I've dealt with it and it's negatively impacted me in certain ways. And I've lost gigs over blah, 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 blah. Dude, I did that on Rumble on purpose, right? I went live on Rumble and YouTube and Facebook, I think. Dude, it's still my video with the most views. I just called it "Is Trump Derangement Syndrome Real?" And I talked for like an hour. Dude, within a day, it had over 1,200 views. I'm like, what? And then I was like, man, maybe that's a ticket. Maybe I should just, play these videos and laugh at people. But then I'm like, well, then that's going to alienate every other topic I want to talk about.
Dude, I think
So,
you should just put yourself out there, talk about whatever the fuck you want,
right.
man. Like, and just have no filter. It sucks because you kind of do have to have a little bit of a filter, with YouTube and stuff like that. But it's really. Did you see the other day on X? I don't know if you noticed this, but Grok the AI,
Well, yeah.
Grok account on X got suspended the other day.
See, that's perfect.
Right? Like it was for being anti-Semitic in some of their responses or something like that. Like it's pretty wild. Obviously it was reinstated later that day, and then they made jokes about it, and we talked about it I think on the
Right.
last live stream. But that's pretty crazy that XAI just can get suspended too for we're supposed to have free speech on this platform to
Right.
begin with,
Well, I mean,
and then AI is going to get
you
suspended over it.
you know that the biggest thing everybody says, "Oh, you can't have free speech because you can't go in a movie theater and yell fire. That's against the
Well, that's
law."
different. That's a
It's
threat
yeah, but it's
or
not against the
panic.
law.
Yeah,
It's not against the law, to go in and do that. Doesn't mean you should go and do it. You know what I mean? It's not against the law to, talk bad about, somebody's ethnicity. Doesn't mean you should do it.
right.
I'm not one that, and this I don't want this to get me in trouble, but I'm not one to automatically have thoughts about somebody because of the way they look. You know what I mean? Like whatever their skin color is or anything. That's not me, dude. I'm like, just don't make anything an issue with me and we're good. You know what I mean? I'm not going to treat you any different than I would treat anybody else as long as you don't give me a reason to. Like and it's not treating you different because of the color of your skin. It's just like I'm treating you different because you gave me a reason to treat you different as a person.
I'm going to treat you different because of your vibe, not how you look.
Right. Right. And then unfortunately there's stereotypes for every color and race and whatever, and you see, especially now with, everybody has a video camera in their hand, you know, and you see these videos of certain things and certain people doing things, and you just shake your head, and and sometimes you can't help but go, "Oh, that's just so typical." That's so typical that person did that.
Yeah.
And I don't think, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think you're being racist. You're just observing something, and humans are designed to see patterns. That's what we see. We see patterns, right? Because they're more noticeable when we see something over and over and over again. It's more noticeable. And then you see these videos, and it's certain things are happening in these videos by people, and it all of a sudden the pattern emerges. And I don't think you're not ingrained to think a certain way. It's just this pattern keeps showing up in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, well, it's
You
just,
know?
I mean, stereotypes aren't necessarily bad. They just represent a culture or how people were raised or
Right.
grew up. And, I mean, fuck it, dude. I don't personally hate anyone.
Right.
And I think most people want to love everyone. You know
Right.
what I mean? So if you're going to be cool with me, I'm going to be cool with you. But if you're going to be an asshole to me, I'm going to be a bigger asshole to you.
Right. And there's just been so many movements, so many things over the last 5 years that have just, I think it's just worn people down to the point where people are so sick of it, and people are so tired of hearing about it, that it's just like, I don't want to hear about it anymore. I'm done. Not that, we want you to go away, or not that we don't think that you should be able to do this. It's just the fact that we told you to leave us alone this entire time, and you were trying to force us into believing something, and it's now we're just tired of it. And I don't have a problem with anybody. Just don't make me have a problem with you, and
Yeah,
we're
right.
good. Don't force me to have a problem with you. Don't try to, make me have a problem with you, and we're going to be good as long as the day is long.
Right.
Good as the day is long. Just don't force me into anything, you know?
Yeah. But listen, my brother, we got to wrap this up because I have got to eat dinner and all kinds of shit tonight still.
Right. All
But
right, dude.
dude,
So,
it's been so amazing talking to you. Everybody needs to go follow the Earmob podcast on every platform.
right.
And I'm gonna talk to you a little bit after this podcast, and I want to help you grow, man, because you
Yeah.
have so much to say and your voice needs to be heard, you
I think
know?
dude, I just need to do it every day. I just,
Yeah.
like you said, you wanted to do 15 minutes, you know,
Yep.
uh, I just need to do it every day. I just need to find a time and sit down for 15 minutes and go, okay, dude, here's 5 stories. I'm picking 5 stories today. Here's my thoughts,
Yeah, I mean,
you
even
know?
if you just did one, you could like you could talk about stuff. So
Right.
you got that gift, brother. And it's been amazing. Thank you, Chas Stumbo. And
Right.
I can't wait to have you on again.
Right. All right, dude. No
All right,
worries,
dude.
man. And whenever you want to come on and just shoot the shit, talk about something, we can do that
Anytime.
on mine as well. So,
Anytime. You know I'm always around. So anytime I can, I will, dude.
all right, dude.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace, bro.
Later.
Later.